Nissan is a very famous car company from Japan. Many people around the world drive Nissan cars. You may know popular cars like the Altima sedan or the Titan truck. Nissan also made the Leaf, one of the first popular electric cars. For many years, Nissan was a very successful and strong company. But now it is in serious trouble. It is facing a major crisis. In July 2025, Nissan announced some shocking news. The company lost $782 million. This was not for a full year, but for only 3 months of work. This very large loss was a surprise to many people. It showed that Nissan's problems were much bigger than people thought. This was also the 4th time in a row that the company reported a loss. This means Nissan was not making money for a full year. So, why is this happening to such a famous company? There is not just one simple reason. It is like a perfect storm, where many bad things happen at the same time. Some problems are from old mistakes. These are bad decisions the company's leaders made in the past. Other problems are new and come from outside the company. For example, the United States government created new rules for trade. President Donald Trump introduced new tariffs. A tariff is a special tax on products that come from other countries. These tariffs on cars make it very expensive for Nissan to sell its vehicles in America, which is a very important market. Because of this perfect storm of problems, Nissan needs to make big changes to survive. The company has a new, difficult plan to fix its business. This plan includes closing factories and reducing many jobs. This story is about Nissan's fight. We will look at the huge money loss, the problem with the tariffs, and the company's painful plan to build a new future. 2. The big problem with tariffs. A big part of Nissan's trouble came from outside the company. It came from the United States and its new rules for trade. In the year 2025, the American president, Donald Trump, wanted to protect jobs in his country. He started new, strong trade rules. One of these rules was a new tax, called a tariff, on cars that came from other countries. This tax was very high, 25%. This new rule was a very big problem for car companies in Japan, like Nissan. The tax would cost Nissan about $3 billion. This was a huge amount of money for a company that was already losing money. The tax was not just on finished cars. It was also on car parts that companies move between countries to build their vehicles. Nissan brings many of its cars and parts to the U.S. from its factories in Japan and Mexico. So, this new tax was a direct hit to the company. It was difficult for Nissan to pay this tax without making its cars more expensive for customers, which would hurt sales. Then there was some good news. President Trump made a deal with the leader of Japan. The deal lowered the tax on Japanese cars. It was not 25% anymore. The new tax was 15%. This was better, but it was not a perfect solution. The boss of Nissan said that 15% is still 15%. The tax would still cost Nissan about $2 billion. This was a much bigger problem for Nissan than for other Japanese car companies. Toyota and Honda also had to pay the tax, but the tax hurt Nissan much more. This is because Nissan imports a larger number of its cars into the US compared to Toyota and Honda. Those companies build more of their cars for the US market at factories inside America. For Toyota and Honda, the tax was a manageable problem. For Nissan, it was a crisis. This tax was a key reason why the company was in so much financial trouble. 1. A new plan for Nissan. Nissan was in a serious crisis. The company was losing a lot of money, so it needed to change quickly to survive. The leaders at Nissan knew they had to make a very big and fast change. They created a new, strong plan for the company's future. This plan was called Re-Nissan. It was not a small change. It was a completely new way of thinking for the company. The new CEO, Ivan Espinosa, started this plan. He said the changes were necessary for Nissan to become a successful company again. The goal was to stop losing money and start making a profit. A central part of the Re-Nissan plan was very painful for workers. The company announced it would cut 20,000 jobs. This was a huge number of people. These jobs were in many different countries around the world. At first, the company planned to cut 9,000 jobs, but the problems were bigger than they thought, so they had to increase the number. The job cuts affected everyone. People who build cars in the factories and employees working in offices lost their jobs. The leaders said it was a sad decision, but they believed it was the only way for Nissan to survive. Another big part of the plan was to close factories. Nissan had too many factories for the number of cars it was selling. The company had 17 factories globally. The Re-Nissan plan said that 7 of these factories must close. This was a very large reduction. After the closures, Nissan would only have 10 factories left to build its cars. This also meant that Nissan would build fewer cars in the future. The company's total production would decrease from 3.5 million cars per year to 2.5 million cars. This showed that Nissan was becoming a smaller company to work better and not waste money. The factory closures happened in different parts of the world. For example, a very old and important factory in Mexico was on the list to be closed. This factory was the first one Nissan ever built outside of Japan. Another important factory in Apama, Japan, was also going to shut down. This factory employed around 2,400 people. The main reason for all these changes was to save a lot of money. The Re-Nissan plan aimed to reduce the company's costs by $3.4 billion. The final goal was simple but difficult. Nissan wanted to be a profitable company with positive cash flow by the year 2026. 4. The new leader's big job. A new leader arrived at Nissan in April 2025. His name is Ivan Espinosa, a 49-year-old executive from Mexico. He was given one of the hardest jobs in the car industry, to save the company. Nissan was in a deep crisis. He inherited many problems that started years before he became the leader. His experience in the North and South American car markets is helpful, but the challenge ahead is huge. Mr. Espinosa must make very painful decisions to fix the company's problems. He is the leader of the Re-Nissan plan. This plan will cut 20,000 jobs and shut down 7 factories around the world. He was honest about how difficult this is. He called the decisions a very, very painful and sad decision. But he also explained that they are necessary for the survival of Nissan. He knows that without these big changes, the company might not exist in the future. Many people are angry about these plans, especially the investors. These are the people who own parts of Nissan and have lost a lot of money. They are frustrated with years of poor results and broken promises from past leaders. At a stormy meeting in June, they questioned Mr. Espinosa for about 3 hours. He had to explain his new strategy and defend his tough choices in front of them. At the same time, a very important relationship for Nissan is over. For more than 20 years, Nissan had a strong partnership with the French car company Renault. This famous alliance helped both companies grow and become stronger. Now, that partnership has officially ended. The Renault executives have left Nissan's board of directors. This is a very big change. It means Nissan must now face its challenges alone. Ivan Espinosa has the giant job of leading Nissan through this storm. 5. A famous old boss. It is not possible to understand Nissan's big problems today without talking about a famous old boss. His name was Carlos Ghosn. For a long time, he was one of the most important people in the car industry. His story with Nissan has a good part and a bad part. Many years ago, in 1999, Nissan was close to failure. The company was losing a lot of money and was almost bankrupt. Then Carlos Ghosn arrived. He started the Nissan Revival Plan. It was a plan to make big changes. He cut costs and made the company more efficient. His plan was a huge success. He saved Nissan and made it a powerful and profitable car company again. Many people called him a hero. But Ghosn's plan also created new problems for the future. He wanted Nissan to grow very, very fast. His main goal was to get a bigger share of the car market. To do this, he built many new factories all over the world. The idea was to build cars everywhere and sell them everywhere. For a while, this strategy worked. But the company grew too big, too quickly. It had more factories than it needed. This is called excess capacity. When the company started to sell fewer cars, these extra factories became a very expensive problem. Ghosn left Nissan in 2018 after a big scandal. His exit created chaos. For years, the company had no clear direction. New leaders came and went, but the big problems remained. There was a lot of confusion and instability. The choices Ghosn made years ago are a big reason for the crisis today. The new Nissan plan is trying to fix these old mistakes. It is closing the extra factories that Ghosn built. Nissan is still living in the shadow of its famous old boss. 6. A difficult time for cars. The whole car industry is facing a difficult time. The market is changing very fast, and it is not easy for older companies to adapt. The biggest and most important change is the move to electric cars. More and more customers want cars that run on electricity instead of gasoline. This global shift is a huge challenge for car makers that have built gasoline cars for many years. Nissan finds itself in a very difficult position because of these big market changes. A big part of the problem is competition. Years ago, Nissan was a leader with its electric car, the Leaf. It was one of the first major companies to sell a successful electric car to the world. But Nissan did not use this early advantage well. It was slow to develop new electric models. Now, other companies are leading the electric car market. New companies like Tesla from America and BYD from China are extremely popular. They have taken many customers away from traditional car makers. Nissan is now far behind them and must fight to catch up. The result of this new competition is clear in Nissan's sales numbers. The company is selling fewer cars in its most important countries. China used to be a very profitable market for Nissan, but in the first part of 2025, sales in China fell by 27%. This is a very large drop. Chinese customers are choosing cars from local companies like BYD, which offer new technology at good prices. The problem is not only in China. In Japan, Nissan's home country, sales also fell by 11%. It is very bad when a company cannot sell well at home. When we look at other Japanese companies, Nissan's situation looks even worse. Toyota and Honda also face the same problems with electric cars and new competition. It is a difficult time for them too. However, they are managing the situation much better than Nissan. They have been more successful at keeping their customers and making a profit. They are stronger. This comparison shows that Nissan's problems are very deep. It is not just about a bad market. It is about Nissan being weaker than its main Japanese competitors. This makes the company's future very uncertain. 7. The sad story of a job loss. Nissan's big problems were not just about numbers on a page. The company's crisis had a very large and sad human cost. The Nissan plan called for cutting 20,000 jobs worldwide. This was a huge number, much bigger than the first plan. The job cuts happened between fiscal years 2024 and 2027. They affected people at every level of the company. Workers on the factory floor lost their jobs, but so did people in administration, research, and management. For 20,000 individuals and their families, the news was terrible. It changed their lives completely. One of the saddest stories was the closure of the CVAC factory in Mexico. This was a very historic place. It was Nissan's first factory built outside of Japan, opening in 1966. For almost 60 years, it produced more than 6 million vehicles. The factory was a key part of the local economy in the town of Jutepec. Now, it was closing by March 2026. This meant that 2,400 workers would lose their jobs. The closure also hurt many other small businesses in the town that sold things to the factory or its workers. A similar story happened in Japan. Nissan announced the closure of its Opama factory. This was another old and famous plant that opened in 1961. For many years, it was one of Nissan's most important factories in its home country. The workers were very proud to build cars there. The closure, planned for March 2028, meant another 2,400 jobs were lost. It was more than losing a job. It felt like the end of an important piece of history for the workers and the local area. The crisis was also very difficult for the employees who kept their jobs. There was a lot of fear and stress inside the company. People constantly worried about their own future. They did not know if their job was safe. In places like the United States, the company froze pay raises. They also offered some workers money to leave their jobs. The remaining employees had to work in a very stressful environment. They were asked to do more with less, and morale was very low. Everyone was worried about what would happen next to the company and to them. 8. What happens next? Nissan is at a very important time in its long history. The company lost a lot of money, and it has many big problems. The future of this famous car company is not certain. Nissan must face its problems from both the outside and the inside. The American government's taxes on cars are still a big problem. At the same time, the company must change how it works. The Re-Nissan plan is the company's best hope. But making the plan work is a huge challenge. It is a very big risk. The plan is very painful. It means closing 7 factories and cutting 20,000 jobs. These changes are difficult, but the company's leaders say they are necessary. They hope the plan will make Nissan smaller but stronger. The goal is to stop losing money and to become a successful company again. But it will not be easy to do this while also making good cars that people want to buy. What happens to Nissan is important for the whole car industry. Other old car companies are watching. They have similar problems. The world of cars is changing very fast. There are new electric cars and new companies from countries like China. If a big company like Nissan can fail, it is a warning for everyone. If Nissan can survive, its story will be an important lesson for other companies about how to change and become successful again. The biggest question is simple. Can Nissan survive? Is the Re-Nissan plan the right answer? The company has smart engineers and a famous name. But the problems are very big. The next few years will show if Nissan's difficult decisions can save it. The company must do more than just cut costs. It must also make new, exciting cars for the future. The road ahead is very difficult, and there is not much time. Do you think the Nissan plan will be enough to save the company? Let us know what you think.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.